There's a story about a young Leonardo da Vinci, not the famous one, not the Mona Lisa, not the flying machines. This is before all of that. At 14 years old, Leonardo was handed a task so ordinary, so beneath the image we have of a genius, that most people would have rushed through it and moved on. He was asked to paint the left foot of an angel in someone else's painting. Just the foot. And what Leonardo did with that foot was so unnervingly perfect, the detail. The light, the anatomy that his master, Verrocchio, reportedly looked at it, put down his own paintbrush, and never painted again. He knew he'd been surpassed. Now here's the question that should haunt you. Leonardo didn't wake up one morning a genius. So what was actually happening during those years before the foot? Before the fame? Before anyone was watching? That's the question Robert Greene spent years answering in one of the most important books on human excellence ever written, Mastery. And the answer is stranger and more available to you than you think. Let's break it. Section 1. The lie we were told about greatness. We have a story we tell ourselves about exceptional people. They were born different. Mozart heard music in his head at 4. Michael Jordan was just built for basketball. Einstein saw relativity while the rest of us were still learning long division. Talent, genius, gift. These words do something dangerous. They place greatness outside the system. They make it a lottery. You either won at birth or didn't. And if you didn't win it, the best you can do is watch. Robert Greene's argument is that this story is almost entirely wrong and that we tell it to ourselves because the truth is far more uncomfortable. The truth is this: almost every person we call a master went through the same process. Not the same talent, the same process. A predictable, almost biological sequence of phases that transformed an ordinary, confused beginner into someone operating at a level that looks, from the outside, like magic. Greene studied the lives of Darwin, Da Vinci, Mozart, Einstein, Temple Grandin, Freddie Roach, and dozens of others. And underneath the surface differences, different eras, different fields, different personalities, the same architecture kept appearing. He calls it the path to mastery, and the reason most people never find it isn't that they lack the raw material, it's that they skip a phase they were never taught to value. Section 2. The phases nobody talks about. Greene breaks the path into 3 main stages. The first is the apprenticeship. This is the phase that determines everything, and it's the phase modern culture is most hostile toward. We live in a world that rewards speed, quick results, visible output. The idea of spending years in obscurity, learning deeply, watching, absorbing, it feels almost irresponsible now. But Greene is unambiguous. There is no shortcut through the apprenticeship. You cannot buy it, rush it, or fake your way past it. And the people who try, who chase status before they've built substance, almost always plateau early and wonder why. The apprenticeship has one purpose: to remodel your mind, to rewire how you see your field at the deepest level. This takes time. Greene estimates roughly 10,000 hours, echoing Gladwell, but with a crucial distinction. It's not just time spent, it's time spent in a specific way, what he calls deep observation and skill acquisition, followed by something most beginners avoid. That thing is experimentation. Not doing what you're told. Not just refining what you already know. Actually pushing against the edges of your field, failing, adjusting, failing again, and slowly building an intuition that no one could have given you. The second phase is creative active. This is where the apprentice becomes something more dangerous. You've built the foundation. You start connecting ideas across fields. You bring your own perspective into the work. You stop imitating and start inventing. Greene describes this phase as deeply uncomfortable. You're operating at the edge of your competence by choice, because that's the only place creative breakthroughs live. Most people who make it through the apprenticeship stall here. They get good enough to be respected, comfortable enough to stop pushing, and they settle. They become competent professionals instead of masters. The third phase, true mastery, is almost impossible to describe from the outside because it looks effortless. At this level, the person has internalized so much knowledge that conscious, analytical thinking steps aside, and something Greene calls intuitive intelligence takes over. It's the chess grandmaster who sees the winning move before they can explain why. It's the surgeon whose hands know things her conscious mind hasn't processed yet. It's Da Vinci painting a foot with a precision that made his master quit. Not magic, just the endpoint of a process that started in an unglamorous, uncomfortable room somewhere, years before anyone was watching. Section 3. The keys Greene gives you. So how do you actually move through these phases instead of getting stuck? Greene identifies several keys. Here are the ones that land hardest. Key 1. Find your life's task. This is the concept that opens the book, and it's the one most people skip past because it sounds abstract. Greene argues that each person has a deep inclination, a set of obsessions, curiosities, things that pull your attention without being asked to that points toward the work you're built to do. He doesn't call it passion. Passion is too soft, too mood-dependent. He calls it your primal inclination, something you felt as a child before anyone told you what to want. The failure mode Greene describes is giving up on this signal too early. Choosing a career based on money, approval, or what seems practical, and spending decades doing work that never fully engages your deepest intelligence. You can become competent this way. You will almost certainly never become a master. The task is to reconnect with that signal, however faint it's become, and build your life's work around it. Key 2. Submit to the apprenticeship without ego. This is the one that costs most people the most. In the early phase, your job is not to express yourself. It's to absorb, to watch, to ask more questions than you answer. To accept that the gap between where you are and where the masters are is not a wound to your identity. It's the material you're here to close. Greene says the greatest danger of the apprenticeship is the student who arrives already convinced they know enough, who performs rather than learns, who optimizes for being seen as competent before they've done the work to become it. The ego, in this phase, is the enemy. The willingness to be a beginner genuinely, without performance, is the door. Key 3. Resist the pull of the comfortable. Greene describes a gravitational force he calls the false path. It's the moment, usually mid-career, when the world offers you something that looks like success, but is actually a ceiling. A promotion, a title, a comfortable niche. More money for doing slightly less of the thing that was actually developing you. The masters in Greene's research almost universally resisted this pull, often at real cost. They turned down secure positions. They stayed in difficulty longer than their peers. They understood, consciously or instinctively, that comfort and mastery are in tension, and they chose mastery. Key 4. Expand your relationship to time. This might be the most quietly radical idea in the book. Greene argues that what separates masters from everyone else is not intelligence or talent, it's their relationship to time. Most people measure progress in weeks and months. Masters think in decades. They are willing to invest years into the apprenticeship because they understand that the payoff is not linear, it compounds. The skills, the intuitions, the depth of knowledge they build during those unglamorous years don't just add up, they multiply against each other. A 5-year apprenticeship doesn't make you 5 years better. At some point, it makes you unrecognizable from who you are operating with a quality of perception and judgment that cannot be faked, borrowed, or rushed. Section 4. The reframe that changes everything. Here's the idea from mastery that I want you to sit with longest. Greene argues that mastery is not an achievement. It is not a destination you arrive at and then inhabit. It is a way of relating to your work, a willingness to go deeper than is comfortable, longer than is rewarded, and more honestly than is safe, not because you're chasing status, but because the work itself demands it. The people we call geniuses are, in Greene's framing, simply people who stayed in the process long enough for their conscious and unconscious mind to merge, who built so much real knowledge that thinking and intuition became one thing. That is available to you, not easily, not quickly, but it is not a lottery. You were not born too ordinary for this. You were simply never shown the path. Now you have seen it. The question is whether you'll have the patience to walk it. Think differently, live intentionally. Subscribe, like, and leave a comment. I'll see you in the next one.